Hello everyone, these are the Viper Goggles from FXT. They come with two linear antennas, an audio-video cable, a power cable with an XT60 adapter, cleaning cloth, a nice big double zipper case with a handle, an accessory bag that velcros right under the top, and they weigh more than my little scale can measure. So if we cut right to the brass tacks of this visor or goggles is really for someone who has a budget of about $150, $160. You might have a harder time adjusting to smaller goggles such as the Fat Shark or the Amway or other goggles of that nature. And this gives a much more immersive experience when you're inside the goggles, almost like you're at an IMAX theater, something of that nature. So if you're looking for that sort of FPV experience, this would be a good candidate. The screen is nice and bright and it works well. The cables, the cable management, that all works just fine. We have an XT60. The screen is all the electronic components. Everything else is just how it fits to your head and it holds the component. The joystick is really your primary button or feature. You have a record button up here. That's kind of the general gist of it. Now let's go over the housing and how that works real quick. It actually works quite well for a box goggle. So it's real simple. You take the screen out with this simple latch. It's nice and easy to use. Screen flops right in there. It goes right to its home position without you having to fiddle with it at all. It slides right in there. You can see you've got a foam pad back here, and that helps to secure it and keep the screen from moving around at all on your head. There's also cable management along the side here. So we have these little clips that goes in nice and fine through there. You've also got another clip back here, and your battery goes right here in the back. You can fit quite a large battery in here if you choose to. You could easily go with a 3S, like 1300 milliamp or something of that nature. The button on the screen, you press it down to turn it off and on, so you could leave your battery plugged in and just control your power consumption with that button. With the battery in back, you do balance the weight. It doesn't hang off your nose really at all. If you can see here, the nose area is actually all flexible, so it's not even possible for this to hang off your nose. And that's one of the things I think a lot of box goggles were guilty of, is hanging off the nose and putting pressure on the bridge of the nose, and this doesn't do that at all. And I believe they've accomplished that through using a larger forehead piece. So the weight is supported by a larger part of your head. Sorry, you can't see much of that. Let me see if I can get this out of the way. So you have this larger forehead piece up here, and that really takes the brunt, if you want to say that way, of the force or the weight of the goggles. You do have some nice straps here that velcro out for adjustability, and I have quite a large head, so I had to adjust my top strap out from my head quite a ways. You can see there we've got a lot of exposed velcro, and the back that goes against the backside of your head is also nice and foam padded. My only concern with this is over time, you know, we fly in the heat a lot and we tend to sweat. The larger the pieces, the more sweat, and I don't think this is going to be I worry that this is going to be something that we're going to have to buy very often. You can see it removes with just typical Velcro. It holds on quite nice. I didn't have any problems with that adjustment. If we go into the goggles a little bit and we look at this rubberized, this is really quite comfortable to have on or around your face. And this component or area allows you to put glasses right inside there. And I've taken my glasses off just to show you that might be one of the real big features for some that use or need glasses when they're flying. I don't use glasses when I'm flying, but as you can see, mine easily fit right down there. Again, I have a large head. My glasses are filthy. I apologize. But our glasses go in there quite well. So if you're someone who needs glasses for your FPV experience, you can easily use that. I did find that there was just a touch of light leak around the nose. You could easily take some felt and put it in here to block that up. It's very, very minor in my experience with it. I think if I were to use this long term, I wouldn't do it in my experience. I don't think there was enough light leak to bother me. And I thought that the resolution of the screen and the screen brightness, which you can adjust up and down, but on the default medium setting, that the screen brightness kind of washed out any light leak that we had from the goggles. There's no light leak through the top or through the sides. It all comes through the faceplate here, and I only saw it through the nose area. I think there was a little bit down through each corner and then a little bit down here around my nose. I did find putting the goggles on and off my head a little bit cumbersome, and I think that kind of goes with this format. So I don't think if you buy another set of goggles, they'll go on a whole lot differently than these will. The flexible rubber flaps, I actually found that I could adjust them with wiggling my cheek. There was just a little bit of a flap turn up and I could wiggle it out with my cheek just by kind of squinting my eyes back and forth a few times. Here's a profile view if you couldn't see that very well. And you can see that we've got the screen up here, but we actually view down here, and that's because we've got mirrors inside that place our vision right on the screen. And I did find that it was quite easy to get the goggles in the right space in order to see the screen or the image clearly, but you do have to adjust it because you will see one of the, well, I saw the top mirror from time to time when I didn't have in the right spot, and and it just a slight adjustment, and then I couldn't see the top mirror anymore, and I could see only my FPV image. Let's take the front off and take a look at those mirrors. So if you can see right down in there, I don't think it's going to come out very well. Let me get a flashlight. So hopefully you can see right down in there, there's a mirror there, and then in the top, there is another mirror right up in there. And that is how you get the image to your eyes, and it's very unique and interesting. Those mirrors could be doing something to increasing the image in some way. I'm just not familiar enough with that sort of use to where I can explain that. You do see that there's some felt here along the sides, and I think that would absorb any light that might be bouncing off the side. I think that if that weren't there, I bet that would be a big deal, because I suspect light would be bouncing around these mirrors and causing problems. So that obviously they have not only created the product, but they've actually tested it to make sure it functions as they intended. That's really all I have to say about the case or the headset. Let's go into some of the features now. As you can see, I have a battery plugged in. Our cable goes all the way into the screen. There is no internal battery, and the power's not on, right? So we press this little button here on the back. We press that straight down. And now we're getting an image on the screen with the FXT technology. I don't currently have anything on, so we'll go through the DVR here in just a few moments. Basically, this is what you see on the display. You can actually turn that off if you choose to or need to, if you find that distracting, or if it's blocking part of your OSD. You get the voltage of your battery that you're running there, you get your run time, and you get the channels that you are connected to there, A and B being the antennas. If we press and hold the joystick to the left, we get this menu where we can manually tune our channels, and we can select different channels for our favorites. So if I go down, I hit enter, and let's say I want 5825 as my second favorite. I hit the down button again, and I'm done. To get out of that screen, long press to the left again. To auto search, again, we use the joystick and we press and hold down, and we go into the auto search. I don't have anything for it to find. In my experience, it locked right onto the right channel every time. I didn't have to start fishing for the channel or doing a manual search when I was flying by myself, which is what I do most of the time. If you want to do a manual search, press left, real short press, and then you can press to the right to start feeding through your different channels on your particular band, and you can finish by finding your channel that way if auto search isn't something that you want to do. If you want to just tune to your channel, you take the joystick and you quick press to the right, you get this screen, and then you can use the joystick to navigate down to the channel. If say you're on Fat Shark 1 5740 here, and then we press down on the joystick, now we're on Fat Shark 1, which it says right there, and then it also gives us the actual frequency. So when we have the screen up, we can just press down on the joystick real quick, and we get into the settings of the menu, and you can see it shows the channel and it shows the format. Let me press that again, it went away. And let me keep it active here. We've got format, so we've got NTSC and PAL. The display is obviously on. Backlight, which is currently set to medium. I just left it at default. I felt that was very good. Of course, you can change the brightness, contrast, saturation up and down to your liking, and it also has volume, and we have the language there as well. To get into the DVR, we press the joystick up. After a short time, it shows us this. It shows no image. We press the joystick up again, and then we go to our HDMI in if you wanted to connect this up to your computer, or maybe you have an entertainment system that you wanted to connect it to, so you can get a real immersive experience in that way as well. Let's jump back into the DVR and take a quick peek at that. So you can see here I've plugged something in now. I've got a little quad back there that's actually the Snapper 7 with the BWOOP 75 frame, and I've just got it pointed out here behind us. You can see a little flickering on the screen. These antennas, you should not plan to use them. They just generally don't work very well, and I found that there was a huge performance increase. I was flying this inside the house, which is one of the ways I like to test equipment like this. Outside my little flying space, it worked just fine, just as expected. It rivaled what I would expect from any goggle, but inside, because I fly around the house so much and I fly through the house so much, I found that this cheap Amway antenna is really a difference maker. I tried a Pagoda antenna and the image was just terrible, But with this, that really took care of things. And I used a patch antenna as well, something like this, but I pointed it out the window from where I sit, and you've probably been watching that right up there, hopefully. So if you're flying in your house and you're having any difficulties with your current antennas, I would suggest picking up one of these. You can find these off of Banggood. You can probably find them off of Amazon as well. I think you get 2 of them for like $9 or something like that. They're not necessarily the latest and greatest, but I find that they work extremely well when flying inside my house. So I've done the auto search and I've logged on to my channel here. If we wanted to record, that's a feature I hadn't gone over yet. We can press this button up here, and we see we get a record flashing here on the screen. There's no way to get rid of that or any other sort of signal that you might have. And we also can see that we have lights on either side indicating the antenna that is in use at that moment, which is a nice feature. You can see it switching back and forth every once in a while. When you're done recording, you just quick press down. Now you can get into the DVR in 2 different ways. You can hold the joystick up and it will go into the DVR menu, or you can long press. See, I've got SD card full now. I've got a tiny little SD card in there, but you can also just press down on this for a long press. And after a short moment, we get into the DVR, and you can see that I've got that image out back that's behind me here. At this point, you have the file that you just recorded on screen, and you can use this button right up here to play it. You can see we've got our little amperage running down there, and you can also use this to stop. And now everything is stopped. You can also go into the DVR and you can delete files if you want to, or you can select different files to play back. I've just got the one file on there because of this tiny SD card on there, and but that is navigated with the joystick on the back, selecting left or right, up and down to select your file, and then use the press play button up there to delete your file if you choose to do so. The only other thing to make a note of would be that the power cable uses a micro USB connection down here. I'll go ahead and power this off now, and then I'll show you that it plugs in right down here at the bottom, and it uses a micro USB connection. I'm a little bit concerned that if we were to break this, that we would have to buy this specifically from FXT if this cable were to become damaged, or this end were to become damaged, unless you're handy enough to where you can take one of your micro USB cables and rewire it back to this cable if this were to be the problem. Something I may not have highlighted initially, this is our HDMI port right over here, so we can plug in an audio video source, and our speaker is right back here, I believe. That's where I heard the sound come from earlier when I was testing it out. The sound on these things is nothing to call home about. It will give you some audio, but if you're looking for high fidelity, you're just not going to get it. That's why I didn't go over it. You also have the audio video in, comes from the cable that is included. It does not come with an HDMI cable. It only comes with these AV in and AV out cables. And this is where we put our SD card. And it is a spring-loaded slot. That wraps up the features and the walkthrough of the video goggles that I wanted to show you today. In my use case, I came from goggles. I used goggles much like this 3 years ago to get started in FPV. And I can tell you goggles have come a long way. There is only one set, I believe I said this earlier in the video, that allows you also to get in glasses, which is the Quantum Cyclops from Hobby King, but I don't believe that one has all the features that this one has, but this one also can serve as a bench tool. You can take this out of the goggles and use this on your bench to make sure that your build is going expected and that your video works on your machine before you take it out to the field to fly. So that's an added bonus of this particular unit. Having come from box goggles and using many different sets over a couple years before, I did buy some Fat Shark goggles. When I got started, I could not afford to spend the $400, $500, $600 on Fat Shark style goggles. I went with the $100 to $150 pair, just like you see in front of you. And I can say that when it comes to feature set, performance, and usability, if I were buying box goggles again and I had $150 to $100 somewhere in there, this would be the set that I get, because the image is clear, probably just as clear, or if not clearer than any other box goggle I've used. If I needed to use my glasses, I could use my glasses. I also found that I went out and flew on a particularly humid day, and for some reason this one did not get the traditional fog on the screen. I went out with my microfiber cleaning cloth, fully prepared to have to wipe the screen down from getting condensation on it from the humidity, but even without a fan, this one did not fog up. I can't explain that. I'm guessing that there was just enough air circulation inside that it didn't fog up. I took it from a nice cool basement right outside. It was probably about 96 degrees with humidity around 65%, and the screen just stayed clear. And that was one of my initial struggles when I came from the Quantum V2s. and they were constantly fogging up. They had a magnification lens in them that you had to zoom in and zoom out, and you had to clean both sides of that lens and your screen in order to be able to fly on those days that it was especially humid. And so that's a huge feature to me. It does only come with an XT60, so you might need to rig up a little adapter like I have for use of your batteries, but if you have a battery with an XT60, you can get any battery. Get the cheapest 2S battery that you can find with this XT60 in order to use this goggle effectively. You don't need to use a highfalutin or expensive battery. You know, I would say get something at least 1,000 milliamps just so it lasts a good long time for you. Also, do not expect to use the stock antennas and for it to get good reception. I would highly suggest you get something like this Amway and this triple feed, which I can link down in the description if you'd like to take a look at those. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please leave those in the section down below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.